welcome to episode 231 of the Weekly podcast. Thank you very much for joining me today. Solo one again. I want to say thanks very much to Shauna Coffey for coming on last week. She's absolutely brilliant. I want to apologize again for the trouble I'm having with Zoom, and this might be a case again today. Even though I pay for my Zoom account, but they for some reason don't seem to care that much. But Shauna was exceptional. She's a very inspirational young person, and I would have liked to have talked to her a bit more. And I had loads of questions, but I did apologize to her. I hope she enjoyed the experience anyway. Yeah, buy me coffee and all that is in the description. So the introduction of today's themes, you might have seen the title of the episode already. It's about obsessive compulsive disorder and how mine is flaring up. Probably more than a bit, I would say. Kind of, I was trying to think of it in terms of how I would describe it to someone. If I was to say something like my bipolar was flaring up, or my anxiety was, was a bit out of control. I don't know how would I would describe it. Having a wobble, maybe the best term that everybody can understand. But it's probably maybe a few new experiences added on to my regular OCD, which I've spoken about on this podcast a number of times before. But I wanted to kind of dig into it a bit more. And there's obviously major changes in my life, so that's contributed to it. And I had to kind of figure it out basically. With the skills that I've kind of learned. And when you're going through something, I think it's interesting to kind of, because you don't want to put it all out there for everyone to see. So you think you're being kind of not sly, but kind of a little bit, sneaky and deceptive, and you're hiding it well, but like maybe you're not hiding it at all, and people are very well aware of that you're acting differently, or you've changed slightly, in the last few weeks, but. I wanted to kind of come on and do a little chat about that. Excuse me for a second. But I've obviously written it all out in front of me, but it's kind of jumble in my head, so it's going to be difficult for me to concentrate and have a good flow to this episode. So I might be jumping a bit all over the place in different things I'm talking about, but the subject matter will remain the same. It is about OCD. So like if someone hasn't listened to the podcast before, if they haven't heard me talk about OCD, my how it kind of works for me is to do with timing. A lot of the time it's about, I have to be here at a certain time. I have to be home at a certain time. I have to go to bed at a certain time. And it kind of very boils down to very, like, literally minutes. I have to be in my bedroom at 10 to 10, brushing my teeth, and in bed for 10, and turn the light off at 10:40, that kind of stuff. Which can be which can be difficult sometimes, because obviously you're not in charge of all these things. And you can't be in charge of all these things if you've got an actual life, and you work and train, and do this podcast, and excuse me, the things that come up, the everyday things that come up. And I just want to say also, before I forget, sorry, speaking of time, I was timed out of this. That's why I was a bit annoyed about earlier on. Sorry, and didn't explain it, but I was timed out of this meeting with Shauna after 40 minutes, and I didn't expect that to come up, because I pay for pay for my Zoom so I can have these meetings, and I can have more than one person on the chats and all that, and I pay a certain amount a year. And that comes out of the buy me a coffee stuff. So it's all great, gets put back into the podcast but for some reason Zoom changed the Zoom Workplace, and seemingly they don't, even though they still are taking the money, they haven't changed that for some reason. So if I am timed out, I'll let you know. They put up a 10-minute warning last time, which put me in a proper uh like how I'm feeling, especially at the moment. I have I put me in a proper kind of kerfuffle situation. I was really all over the place, and trying to listen to Sean and trying to get questions in and all that stuff. So if it goes like that, I'll just tell you when there's a 10-minute warning, and then I'll get into what I need to. Um, So it's yeah, sorry. So going back into it, like about timing and stuff, and I was diagnosed a number of years ago with OCD, and not particularly, um, there's scales of OCD, like there is a scales of everything else, but I wasn't particularly high on the scale of OCD. But I think OCD feeds into the anxiety, and that that affects it in that way. Um, so I have been diagnosed, and I understand the issues that I that impact me, and I tried to I tried to work with it, and then I tried to fight it a little bit as well because I have to try and improve and get a little bit better with certain things, um, and it's not always easy. And so these major kind of changes in my life, then of moving in particular, was very challenging anxiety wise. But then I didn't realize how much it was going to affect my OCD. After I'm here in the house 5 weeks, I think today. Um, and in the last week or two, I've started to feel that essentially everything in this apartment isn't in its right place. And I spent 15 years living out where I was, and everything had a place and was in that place for 15, 10, 5 years, however long I had the whatever particular thing I had. So all of a sudden I've come into this apartment, and I've put everything in where I've considered would be the right place. Like we all do, when we move into a place, we're like, oh, we'll put this here, or we'll put, this table here and this bloody lamp here, or whatever. And when I look around it, particularly in the last couple of weeks, I just see everything being in its wrong place. And so as I walk around and kind of look when I'm looking at things, I'm like, I should move that, or should that's not facing the right direction, or um, the angle is not right there, and so you're constantly kind of not always moving it. Sometimes going, well, I won't move it because I'll try and kind of fight back those thoughts. The kind of intrusive thoughts that I can hopefully, you know, conquer or fight or conquer. Conquer might be a bit the wrong word. Therapists listen to this now, just going, no, it's not. But this is just me talking with no therapy background. Just being in therapy rather than knowing what I'm talking about. So everything is in its wrong place, and so I spend a lot of the time the last 2 weeks thinking I could move that, but then I'm thinking like, where am I moving it to? Because if I move it to somewhere else, that's still in its wrong place because it's not where it's been for the last 15 years. So like this didn't affect me for the first 3 weeks, really. There's a couple of things probably that annoyed me, but it didn't really affect my mindset or my mood or anything because I don't know. I just at the time I was thinking, well, I'm just moved in, I'll figure it out. But I'm in here now, like I said, a few weeks, and it's not quite in the place it should be where it has been. Um, so I used to do that out in the house as well. Like certain things need to be at a certain angle or facing out or facing in, and every so often it would get moved for like just for cleaning or something, and you move stuff around, and then I'd notice it straight away, and I just fix it, and then it was grand. But now, I was doing the clean the other day, and it's like I could really put things back in the wrong spot as to where they are at this very minute. But it still would feel like it does now that they're not in the right spot. And it's a really like excuse the language, it's a mind fuck because you're kind of like, well, where are they going to be, or where should they be, and where am I going to put them for for my mind to be um kind of swayed towards them being in the correct order or the correct place. And I don't really know. And I was thinking about like OCD in general is so I remember when I was in my teens and I used to do this thing with my foot. So it was like obviously can't show you on well, I can show you on screen with my hand, but if you're listening on the podcast apps, I'm sorry. But it'd be like I'd create this like say a diamond shape with my toe, and I just ever so like I'm moving a tiny bit with my toe. I'm not making it. Nobody would notice I was doing it, and I keep having to do it, and I keep doing it, and I keep doing it until I had to move, or. yeah, like shift my position to get comfortable, or I got called by one of my parents or something. So I'd do this thing over and over again. And it was I guess it was a kind of form of mindfulness as well. And it was kind of soothing me because it made me concentrate on that. But there must have been some element of OCD to it as well, because I had to keep doing it, I had to keep doing it in the perfect way, or it would get ruined and I have to start again, or I'd have to create a new shape. And I suppose I got older and I moved into my place with my friends and stuff, it kind of started to move a little bit outwards, where it became areas had to be in a certain way. And, then I moved in where I was living out the road, and then it was like I had like two rooms, an ensuite, and a kind of a hallway that needed to be changed. And now I have an apartment that needs to be in. I'm trying to figure everything out, like where it should be. Like the desk I'm on here is almost an exact replica of how it looked out there. So I feel a little bit more comfortable in it, but maybe I don't feel as comfortable in where the desk is. So that's kind of ruins everything that's on it. Uh, so yeah, so it's like a everything is in my mind. It's like that idea, of like organized chaos, that everything, if someone came into the apartment and they'd be like, oh, everything's looks very neat and that, but it's always going to be neat, I suppose. But like it's not what it should be, or how I feel it should be. So I'm having a lot of difficulty with that at the moment, which is causing the anxiety to be higher. So the maybe the moods have been affected as well. And I don't want to be moody, even more moody than I am. um and I haven't had loads of people visit, but when people have visited, it seemed to me that, so it's like that I'm expecting anything could happen, like a cup could break, or when somebody puts something down on a placemat and the placemat gets moved, or any of the, people could pick up anything, or they're in the kitchen, or they're, you know, or if they leave something behind, or it throws everything up in the air. And like I'd almost, not that I would do this, by the way, but I'd almost take the things that they left behind and just leave them outside the front door, or put them. There's a there's a little kind of place where I can put my bike. It's just it's kind of a little shed, I suppose, out the front, and I could nearly put them out there, just out of sight, so that they're not messing up, even up everything's kind of messed up anyway. And it seems like, to some people, it might sound kind of extreme, but that's just the way my mind is thinking at the moment. So it's very difficult when there's something as unpredictable as a person, and that could be any person. It could be um like my niece's nephew here, which actually wasn't as bad as I thought. But like, by the way, that's just a terrible sentence to begin with. But you know what I mean? My niece and nephew here, and they were playing the piano, and they were messing around with the guitar, and they were picking up the flex, and I thought that a bit would be worse. But I suppose that was about 3 weeks ago, so I hadn't quite hit where I am now, so it wasn't as bad. But there's just a nervousness and anxiety to me when someone's in here now, that um it's just something that's gonna my head's gonna explode or something, and that's not a feeling that I particularly like. Um, so when I was thinking about this, I was just thinking, well, why don't you just, like, all my plans and all my actions, and I had this word obliterate in my mind for some reason, because it sounds so extreme or something, that it soothed me that this I could do this. But like, I missed a gig there a couple of weeks ago with my friend Joanne and her cousins, and I felt really terrible about it, not being able to go, but I knew it was just way too much. And I'm missing one this week as well with them, Arcade Fire gig. And like, deep down, I know Joanne's going to go with her cousins and have a great time. It's not about that. It's just about feeling a bit useless, that you can't just do these things, that it just everything takes over. Um, all of the ideas of travel and plans and having to do this at this time, and which would usually suit me having to do things at certain times, could be thrown into disarray with, what if the traffic's bad, or what if this is that, and um, what if I get freaked out on the people? What if make their experience, Joanne's experience, and her cousin's experience bad? Like, you want them to have a great time at the concert. You don't want to be the one that's, because I know Joanne's a person that will worry about you and try to look after you, but it's not like she's paid for the concert to go and enjoy the concerts. To me, it just seems you'll just be in the way or putting an extra burden on people, and I don't want to do that. But it's in a selfish sense as well. I'm just like, it'd be easier for me not to go, because then I don't have to worry about, you know, the crowds and the queues and the toilets or whatever it is. There's so many different variables. And I try to make myself feel better. I've seen them before, but that was so long ago now. They've got like quite a number of really good songs that I've liked since then. And I would have liked to go again to see them, but I feel like obviously it's the cop out and the easy way out, but it's also the responsible choice, because I think I need to just make sure that I'm feeling all right. I don't want to make myself feel worse than I already am, I guess. So it's like just the idea of like my mom's supposed to stay over here tomorrow night or tonight or whatever it was, and I had to tell her, like, I just wait till I feel a bit better. And again, it's just like, honestly, if my mom was staying here, right, she'd put everything back exactly the way she found it. And yet still I can't get that into my head. My Like, that's the logical part that's just spoken, but it's the illogical part that I'm talking about, I guess. And I can't get into my head that that wouldn't be, that's not, I know that's exactly what would happen, basically. That everything would be put back the way it was. Even if that, in my mind, it's not the right way, in what someone coming from the outside would see, it would be the right way. And still I wouldn't be happy. So there's kind of there's as you can imagine from what I've kind of said, there's an anger and a there's an anger in the sense of, you know, not being able to understand something, and then jumping forward, not being able to fix it, um, especially when it's to do with yourself. If it's something else and it's someone else, it's understandable if you don't understand it, if that people haven't maybe explained it correctly or don't want to explain it and stuff. Um, and I've told a few people about this, by the way, so it's like this isn't a revelation to everybody that on the podcast. But I just have this I had this idea, just okay, just don't do the podcast anymore. How about that? Then that's one thing less. Don't continue doing the music that you're doing, even though I haven't been doing it in the last couple of weeks. Um, Things have gotten top of it, but all of those things can be gone. The only thing that I need to do is to work so I can earn some money. That's all. Um, so like, remove everything fun or enjoyable. Even though this podcast hasn't been particularly enjoyable for the last few weeks, but there you go. It's just one of those things. Um, but like finding guests and then, trying to come up with something interesting and clever to ask them, even though you're just kind of tired and you've asked a lot of questions and you don't want to sound like the last episode or the episode before that. And I suppose everybody has this kind of, with everything, has a point where they have to kind of question whether they want to do it, or whether they want to dig deep and do it, I suppose, or whether they just want to like pack it in and do something else and try something else. Jesus, the lighting in here. Honestly, you can see the ring light in my glasses. It's the weakest ring light that's ever been invented. It's absolutely pointless. But so yeah, it's kind of I've had that idea of just like, wait, or 230, what, 231 episodes. Uh, I wonder if I've given it like everything I have, and now it's time to just move on to the next thing. Run out of people to ask on. Um, probably run out a bit of steam myself. I haven't really done anything to push it on. There's always people come up with these ideas to push the podcast on, and we'll go on some network, or we'll, I have obviously people listen to it, and I really think really grateful for that, or they watch it on YouTube, and that's fantastic. We're 20 minutes in, by the way. We might get a timer in 20 minutes tell us we can't we have to stop. But so it's that yeah. I guess I have those kind of I guess I have those feelings when things aren't going or things aren't going well mentally anyway. And I think like, oh, I'll just stop doing it because Jesus, nobody's really listening anymore. But obviously some people are, but maybe. Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of heightened with this, with the anger and the frustration. Um, because all of this is very frustrating because you can't quite get the answer to it, and the confusion of it all as well, and like um not really knowing where some of the thoughts come from. Um, I don't like, I've obviously read about OCD, and I've spoken to people about it, and spoken to therapists about it, and I've been back to therapy because of OCD. And I told people about the chalk story that time in the gym. But I, the worst thing is you take a lot of this OCD and confusion and stuff from your house into the gym, and then you see the gym in a certain way, and then you expect everyone to kind of go along with what you've just done, or what you think should be done. Like, well, I don't think well, look, but don't really want to go down this route again. But I need to blow my nose. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry. Um, the idea that I've always had in there, like everything should be stacked correctly, and people should leave their stations back the way they should be, and all that. And that's, obviously, Martin would like a more relaxed environment than that. Um, but in my state of mind, it should look a certain way. Well, tidy, I suppose, is one, but I tend to focus on a couple of couple of particular things that I think should be tidy and kept in a certain way. And um, yeah, I think I just I don't know. It's been like that for a while though in there. So I'm constantly trying to fix things and constantly going out around and restacking plates, and then I get frustrated because it's not being done. But um, I'm not the boss. And I've come to this thing where I'm counting things constantly now. So there's a guitar next to the TV, just on a stand, and I don't know how many times I've counted the strings. That's never really been a part of my OCD. Um, like I said, it was mostly due to time, but this is more like counting. Like there's cups above the TV, little kind of ornamental cups. There's seven of them. I don't know how many times I've counted them. There's a Samuel Beckett kind of box set on the fireplace with four individual books. I don't know how many times I've counted them. Um, just things like that, you know. I read about this guy, or maybe I saw it somewhere. I don't know. He used to count his hair, so he'd stand in front of the mirror, and he'd like start at the front of his hair, and he could be there for like an hour just counting strands. Um, I suppose I could be grateful I'm just counting guitar strings. That must be. Imagine how hellish that kind of situation is when you're stuck to a mirror, looking at yourself counting your strands of hair. I can't imagine how tough of a time he must have. I also have like the the double checking things, but I think that's more. I don't really put it down to this so much, but when I was living out with my landlady, she locked the doors at night, and so I have to do that now. And then I'm in the room, and did I lock the door? And I go out and I'll check and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's a particular. I think that's just being safe. I think a lot of people would do that, and I think you put that down. But it's just interesting that it's another thing that kind of you don't trust yourself. You're so careful with how you do things that 99% of there's a 99% chance that you did it. You locked the door, but that 1% takes over when you go into your bedroom and you're like, oh, maybe I didn't lock the door. And you go back out and it's obviously locked. Um, and I went into town and like I've talked about this idea of being more anxious in town, but I was really anxious in town. I don't know, everything was just zooming by. Everything was like fast and everybody was in a rush. And even though I always like feel I'm in a rush in my mind, but maybe I'm just going at normal speed and all of a sudden when I go in there it's like cars, people walking fast and bikes and zooming by me and all this kind of stuff. And I'm the one who's just got out of a cocoon or something that I'm going at a pace that's not keeping up with everyone else, and it's a weird thing. But like I've said, I've been anxious in town for a while now, probably since COVID, really. Um, but then so I had a so I had a weird week then, so things were disrupted a little bit, and I so Tuesday there was a breakdown in communication. I think I'm right. Martin thinks he's right. Whatever. It doesn't really matter now. And I had to take a class later in the evening. So when I woke up that morning, like like I do every day, I had this plan. I'm going to do this at this time and have this. I'll be back by 7 and blah, 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 blah. Right. The usual strict plan in my head. And then it kind of got thrown up in the air because of this late class. The whole day was shit then. The whole day went to shit. It's just, I felt I don't know, angry or I'm not angry actually. But just frustrated and um, just like something's stuck in your craw, as they say, isn't that a saying? And then on Wednesday there was there was something then that was thrown out on Wednesday, and I again it was like a breakdown of communication, um, and whatever it was happened, and then Thursday there was it's terrible what happens to the mind. Oh yeah, so on Thursday I was supposed to have a driving lesson, and then having forgotten about a meeting, a staff meeting we were supposed to have. Uh, so I had to cancel the driving lesson, and then the next day something happened that the meeting didn't happen, and then I had neither the meeting or nor the driving lesson. So I was it threw me about, and I was just kind of it was one of those weeks where you need everything to go right because of how you're feeling, but then nothing does. Everything is sorry now. Sorry now. It's like 6:41 a.m. Um. So yeah, it was one of those weird weeks, and I was like, well, I don't know how good I would have been at the driving lesson. I would have been really good. Um. I felt really good after the last one, I suppose. The automatic, like I was saying last week on the podcast, it was the first time in an automatic, and I made one mistake. It was a error of judgment rather than a, a mechanic. What do you call it? Mechanical mistake, whatever. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel I took to it like you took to water the automatic, and I just felt actually for a lot of the time relaxed until a roundabout appeared. But I felt a lot of time relaxed, and I could concentrate on the actual road and the safety element. Um, and not have to worry about the gears and the clutch and everything else that's there. So I felt I felt that was like it was something. It was some it was it was a positive thing, and that I knew that like right, I can go forward with the automatic, and look, hopefully I can get it sorted for next week, that I can get another test, and then that'll be number 10, and there's just two more then. Um, I'll miss my conversations with Paul. No, to be honest, I'll probably use Paul again leading up to the exam, just to like a refresher. Hopefully, I can get some practice in the meantime, and then when I get up to it, I can have a refresher, Paul, a couple of them, and just make sure everything's all right before I go for the test, and I'm ready to go. Um, so yeah, it's just like I suppose there's no. I like to think I'm so an individual who can concentrate on things, and you know keep up with a couple of things at the same time. Like it hasn't been like that the last couple of weeks, and struggles with struggles to keep up with conversations as well, or not. I don't know if it struggles to keep up with conversations rather than struggles to converse properly. Like when you feel like it would be easier to like end a conversation than actually take part in one, or to keep one going. And you can do it in the gym, a bit of bravado and stuff, depending on who you're talking to, or we can talk about the weather over and over again. That's what we do. But when it comes down to actual deep, serious conversations, I'm not so sure how good I would be at them. Um, so it's been a rough old couple of weeks. So like I was thinking about like the plans to help, and I'm fortunate to have a couple of really intelligent empaths around me that can help me with it, or just listen to me, I suppose. And maybe the thought has occurred to me that therapy might be a way um through it again, because the last time, like I mentioned about the chalk earlier, the last time I was going through it with regards to therapy, I was having the difficulties with the chalk in the gym, and then obviously it turns out, which wasn't exactly a surprise to either myself or the therapist Kenneth, that it was a bit more than just the chalk I was worried about. So it might be an option to go down that route again, um, because it's about like I only have to retrain my brain now with regards to the apartment anyway, that everything is up in the air, and this is how it is now, and you didn't choose to to move out. Its circumstances uh, led you that way. So now you have to figure out like where. Look, there's two ways it's doing it. Do I decide to myself, right, I'm going to put everything exactly in the place I need them to be so I can relax, or do I obliterate the that idea, that feeling, and just go mental and just put things wherever and see if I can sit in it? And that probably sounds more destructive than I thought it would before I said it out loud anyway. Um, so maybe that's not the answer. Right? I don't know. If only I knew the answer. I don't know the answers to anything. Um, there's other things. There's things like meditation. There's the device that my dad got me a while back, which helped at the time. Now it's more. I know it was more to do with depression, but still, um, I don't know if people have been following that long to know what I'm talking about, but it's like a device that you put in your head, and it sends little electric impulses into your cerebral cortex, and it helps stimulate certain areas. So maybe I need to go back to that and just have a little play around with it. And maybe that would help. I don't really know if it's suited for OCD, or it is for anxiety, by the way. It's for depression and anxiety and things like that. So maybe it would help me. Um, Maybe someone else. has been through this, who's listening or are going through this and could suggest something. I don't see that table there pointing at it. Sorry if you're not watching, but that's doesn't. That's the one thing in this apartment that I genuinely don't want or need. And I wonder if people still do that on Facebook, put it up, and people actually go, "Oh, I'd take that off you and then drive to your house and take it," because I'm more than happy to give it to them. It's a TV stand, by the way, or it could be used as other things, I suppose. But it's just there gathering dust. Um, so yeah, that's. To be fair, my friend Joanne tried to take it off my hands, but it couldn't fit. It wouldn't fit in her car at the time, so um, she tried. But she was going to bring it to the dump, and the dump is probably the place for it. But you'd be surprised what people can do and what people can make out of things. And so it'd be great to get rid of that. I also like the just the backdrop to be better. The washing machine. I was before I pressed record. I haven't been given it a timer yet. Maybe they won't time me this time. It says 36 minutes. I would have thought they probably would have. I think last week they gave me a timer with 10 minutes to go. Maybe. It's just, do you know what it is though? It's just companies trying to find their way around things to charge people more for something, or like they went from Zoom to Zoom Workplace. Like, what does it really change? It's still a bloody call conferencing thing. They just make it sound more professional by putting Workplace in. Don't get me started on this because I'll 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 go off on one. Oh, we were supposed to have a guest this week as well. This is a impromptu. It wasn't by the way, the guest needed to push the time back on the day. That's what it was on Wednesday. The guest needed to put the time back on the day, and I was working that evening, so I couldn't push the time back. This guest is going to be great. She's going to come back on in a couple of weeks anyway, so everything's all right. She's going on holidays now, but she's going to be. I have no doubt a fascinating, fantastic guest, and I have that. That's another thing, right? So when I write that out, so I had the questions and episode written out, and then I have to change it. So now there's like an episode just randomly in the middle of the copy that shouldn't be there because it's going to be a later episode. So this copy is, which is my favorite copy, by the way. It's the one that Joanne got me, the Scream one. Um, so this copy is going to be forever tainted by misplacing of episodes. Not fantastic. Not fantastic. Um, yeah, so you know, I've been trying to do my usual stuff. Um, like I was saying about the music, it just hasn't happened in the last couple of weeks. I haven't been able to concentrate. Every so often, I'll pick up the guitar and just play a song that I've written of from the copy, or sit down the piano and play it, and kind of go, "That's actually sounds pretty good. Do I need to change much?" And then I don't really change. I just play it, and then I put the guitar back down or whatever. There's a lot of procrastination going on because I just don't feel like I'm in the right headspace to start creating. Um, But I've bought did I say this before? I probably told you already, but I bought the software for the recording on the laptop. So I pretty much have everything now. I just need to get a proper mic off, a music mic off Keen, who said he'd give me the mic anyway, so I can use that for a guitar and I won't really need it for guitar actually, but just for vocals. Um, so everything's kind of in place. I just need to get my head in order. And I'm trying to figure out how's the best way of doing it. Like, should I just work on one song for a few days until I get it recorded and sounding good and sounding the way I want it to sound, and then move on to the next? Should I be messing around with two or three and just getting ideas off each other and bouncing them around? It's a hard one to judge when you haven't done anything like this before. Um, to make it actually, hold on, we're coming up to 39 minutes, 34 seconds. We could be in 24 seconds. If we drop off, we drop off. It's not the end of the world. At least I'm not disappointing a guest or cutting them short this time. So yeah, I'm, I'm working on the music thing. I will get to it. It would have been nice to go to those couple of gigs that I was supposed to go to because then I might have got some inspiration. We've passed the 40-minute mark. Maybe I've done something right. I suppose I won't know until I actually interview a guest. Maybe I need to find someone who will have a 40-minute conversation with me on Zoom and see if they cut us off. Who knows? But yeah, there's so many things that irritate me so much these last couple of weeks. Like even looking at myself on the computer and how dark the screen is, it's just so annoying. Like the lights are on, the the ring light is on. I don't want to put the laptop on the TV and sorry, the desk at the window because I think, oh God, I think that would do my OCD. That would tip me over the edge. But yeah, look, played a bit of music, watched a couple of films, still training, trying to pull back on the train, and that's not helping. Just because I'm being getting on, feeling my age, and sometimes my body is like, oh, I can't do it today, and my mind is like, but you must, and then you're in the battle back and forth on who wins. But yeah, I suppose that's it really. I don't even want to just waffle on for the sake of it. I'm sorry it was such a downer. Like I'm sure people can understand all this stuff though, and some people who can't, I don't know. Maybe they know people in their lives who are going through it. Maybe some how this has helped them to understand it a bit better. It probably hasn't. It's just a kind of woe is me a little bit. But you know, yeah, keep supporting the podcast if you can, for as long as it'll last. I'm joking. Thanks very much to John for helping us on YouTube. John moved into a new place himself recently, um, with his wife, and I hope everything's going well for them. Thanks to my mum, my dad, my granddad, Jer and Calvin. You can subscribe to us on YouTube to see my dimly lit face. We're also on Instagram and Facebook on the podcast platforms is Anchor, Apple, Spotify. I'm pretty sure, and I know I've said this a few times, I actually think Google Podcasts is actually gone completely now. So you can't get us on that anymore. But there is another couple. Just type in the Weekly podcast and you will be given a list of the ones that it's on and whatever suits you if you want to listen to us on the go. And if you want to watch us on here, make sure you have subscribed if you haven't already. I'm off to give myself a haircut. Um, Thanks for listening, I suppose. And yeah, see you next week. Hopefully with a guest. Maybe not. Who knows? All right, so take care. Bye.